Hello everybody, welcome to virtual technical lecture channel. By this video, I'm going to do an on-fly demonstration of writing unit test cases using Mockito. Okay, so unit test cases are required to test our individual application components independently. So I'm going to demonstrate writing the test cases for a REST application. So let me get into the project. So this Spring LDAP is a REST application developed using Spring Boot REST controller and JPA as a persistence layer. So this REST application have two components. One is controller and the other one is the service layer. This. Okay. So this is the service interface and this is the implementation of it. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate about how do we write the test cases for this LDAP REST controller. So in particular, these three methods. So, and then this method. So I have just created one sample REST API, which would help us to find the courses stored in a courses table and save any new courses to the courses table and delete any courses to the courses table. So these are the three methods for each of them. One is get mapping and the other one is post, and the one for deleting is the delete mapping. Okay, so this REST controller interfaces with service interface, and service interface in turn interfaces with the repository, which connects to the database and either pull or push the data to the data store. So here we have two components, namely a controller component and a service component. So for these two components, we'll have to write individual test cases. Okay, so in an enterprise application, there would be more REST controllers like this, and there would be more service layers like this, and more repository layers like that. So in that case, we'll have to write test cases for individual controller and the individual service layer components. So now let me demonstrate how do we write for this controller. Okay, so here actually I'm going to write the test case for this method. So the standards followed is, so all the test classes will go inside src test java, and if you are going to write a test case for the controller, the package name of the controller should match with the test class package name of the controller should be matching with the package name of the actual controller. Okay, so let me refactor and then pick up this package name, and so right click, new package. Okay, so now I will write one class. So it would be named as same name but with a string test appended at the end of the class name. So controller test. Okay, and let me refresh this. Yeah, so now if you could see, this test class has come in place. Okay, now for writing unit test cases, we should not annotate with Spring Boot test. So I'll say the reason. The reason is Spring Boot test would be inject all the dependencies, including the data sources. So if we include at Spring Boot test and you write a test case, it is integration test case because it would inject all the dependent objects and then we'll do a end-to-end testing of the application. So, but here we are not going to do that. We are going to write a test case for the controller, and hence it should be written as at MVC test, and it should be restricted to this class alone, and hence I am giving LDAP rest controller dot class. Okay, so it is limited to inject the dependencies of the controllers, only this LDAP REST controller, because when a REST application is created for a enterprise application, what will happen is there will be n number of controllers created and each controller has to be individually tested. So this at web MVC test give that facility to map this test case limited to this controller class and only to inject the dependencies of the controller. Okay, so this is done, and the next step is we'll have to do a mock injection of the dependent objects of REST controller. So if we go here, so these two are the mandatory dependent objects of the REST controller. So this has to be, both of this has to be mock injected. So let's do it quickly. So it should be annotated with mock bean. Okay, then the Mockito will do the magic of injecting this facade class. Now if I start this test class, this won't run because I'm not injecting the, I have missed injecting the service class. So it will throw an exception. So run. I think let me write one test case so that void. Basically, we will be starting with this one. Yeah, get all courses. So test get all courses. So here the methods, if it is prefixed with the test class, it would be easier to identify that for which method we are writing the test cases. And further it could be understood appended with underscore for, and test case can be written for different use cases, like maybe an exception is thrown if you want to show that exception, and I mean check that exception is the one we are expected, etc. All the use cases of this test class of this method, sorry, can be tested by including the underscore and giving some reasonable description about that. Okay, so now test.get, and then it should be annotated with @test. Okay, so now if you see, when I run this, this will throw an exception because it will not start, the test class will not start because we haven't injected the service class. So let me open the console. So see here, no qualifying bean of type core service because we haven't mock injected this core service. So let me inject that now and that exception would go away. So let's make it faster. Yes, and then this one. Okay, now when I run this, there won't be any problem. Yes, yeah. So all the required dependent objects has to be injected. That is the first step. And the next step is, so I'm not going to write the test case in such a way that I'm calling this method get all courses, like creating an instance of controller and calling this. No, I'm not going to do that. So rather, I'm going to mock this API call, like the way it is being called by a client. So to do that, I need an utility class which is called as mock MVC. It's called as mock MVC. So I'm going to get this auto wired. Okay. So this is used to mock the API call. Okay. Now let's get into this. So mock MVC dot perform. So perform means we are going to make a API call. So here it will be, we will be using mock MVC request builders. Okay. And here we should do dot. So what is the method? It is a get. So you see here, it is a get mapping. So it should be a get call. So dot get, and then the URI can be copied from here. And then, so when we put it here, it goes like this. That's all. So now here dot expect. So I'm after making the call to this API, what do I expect as a response status? So to check that, status dot, sorry, I think it should be done like this. Yeah, dot is okay. So I'm expecting that this API call would be successful and it would be returning a response status of 200. That is checking that is called status dot is okay. So now it's very simple. You have to just add throws declaration. That's all. Okay. So now, so this has made a call to this. So now our call comes here. But when it comes here, it is calling the core service to get find course. Now what we are going to do is we are going to make the Mockito to intercept this call and return back a mock list of courses. Okay, so let's do that now. So how do we do that? It is Mockito dot when what do we call this one? Okay, find courses, then return a mock list of courses. So let me make one private method which would be returning as gen mock courses, so that I can use this method along the different methods of test cases. So here actually courses, new courses, set ID. I have made this entity classes very simple to ease our demonstration. Okay, so this is the course, Kubernetes basics, and we have to return back this. Okay, so now one more method which will create a list of this. So private list courses gen mock list courses. So list, so I'll have to declare this. So now mock, okay, and then return back this. Okay, all done. So now this guy has to return list of courses. So what I'll do, I will call gen mock list courses. Okay, so now we had made Mockito to intercept the call to find course and then make it return this mock objects. Okay, so no need to connect to database or anything is not required. So just it is limited with between controller and the service layer. Okay, and not beyond the service layer calling the repository. No, we are just stopping there itself. Okay, so now after I get this and expect, so it should be not here, it will be placing this here so that I can write each one by one and expect. So what should I do is JSON path, yes, okay, so dollar, and then I'm see the size of it. Okay, and as I am returning back that as a list actually, so I'm returning back only one data within a list actually. So to check that it is returning back what I'm expecting, so what I'm doing is I'm picking up the data in the first index and then matching the ID attribute. So is this is the what I want. Okay, here I want, what is that, gen courses dot get height. Done. What is the problem? Okay, because the semicolon is here. Okay, and now again the next field called name. Okay, now we can go ahead and test this. Everything is ready. Okay, run as JUnit test. Oh my god, it has got failed. Oh, unauthorized exception. Okay, yeah, understood. The problem is I have a security configuration. Okay, over here I'm instructing the Spring Security to do a HTTP basic authentication whenever there is a call to the API, and also based on the authority of the user I'm giving access to the different APIs. So as this security configuration is auto wired, it is not allowing the mock MVC to make the API call. So to fix that, we'll have to do one thing. So we'll have to instruct this dot at webMVC test and say value is this one, and there is something called exclude auto configuration. Exclude auto configuration. So wherein we can write security auto configuration dot class. So now that security implementation auto configuration would be excluded. Okay, so now of course there is a way to do get this tested along with this auto configuration, but that is not the scope of this demonstration. So hence, I am just excluding it and I'm going to run the test case now and it should work now. Oh my god, so expected is 1. Okay, this is because this is name and this should be name. So now it should run. Yes, the test case got passed. Okay, now let me move on. Okay, so in the same way, we'll have to write the test cases for each of this method. I mean, the next method would be add course, and the next method would be delete course. But I'm not going to write now. In interest of time, now I'm going to write the test case, demonstrate how to write the test case for this service IMPL class. Okay, so again, we'll have to follow the same stuff. So copy this package name and then come to src test java, new package, put this package name here, and then write the test class, create a test class. So the test class name would be course service IMPL test. Okay, it's created, and here it's not web MVC test because it is not a controller layer testing or REST API layer testing. So it is only the service layer testing. Okay. So now we are limited within this class service and the repository. So if you check here, the course service IMPL has a dependency on course repository through which we are reading the data from the data store or storing the data to the data store. So we are limited to only to that actually. So here actually the main thing we have to do is we have to do at extend with Mockito extension dot class. So this needs to be done so that this will enable Mockito to do mocking of the repository objects, etc. Okay, and so this after doing this actually we'll have to inject that the mock dependencies. So there is only one dependency which is called repository. Okay, so the course repository is mocked actually, and the next step is do a inject mock. So what is the difference between the mock and the inject mock is the mock is used to inject the objects which are dependent for running a test case, right? And inject mock is used to inject the actual class that needs to be tested. So here actually there is no entry point. So over there at web MVC test, we had used mock MVC, which is used as the entry point to the controller, right? So that is used, but here the entry point is injecting this class and then calling that method directly. Okay, so we need to create an entry point to that service class. So that service class that is done via inject mocks. Okay, so here I will have to give the actual implementation. Yes. Yes, not service would be better. Okay. So we'll have to do this, and then again the same mocking of data, etc. would be the same method. So in interest of time, I'll pick up that two methods and paste it here. Okay. So if you see here, so now I'm going to pick up any one of them. So I'll pick up remove courses so I can demonstrate two things there. Okay, so that I'm picking up this. So here, if you see the course repository is making calls, etc. So now let me pick up this method. So public void and then test It's not a hard and fast rule that we should append like this, but there should be some standard followed and that should be adapted within that project actually, so that it would be easy to anybody who is getting on board to the project newly. It is the readability of the code would be good enough. Okay, and so here again it should be annotated with a test. So here again, so here what we need to understand is this method remove courses when called with the is called with the one courses object which needs to be removed. So before removing the implementation, what it is doing is it is first of all finding whether such course is existing in the data store, right? So that method is this one. So this method has to be intercepted to return back this optional courses object, and followed by that, once an object such object is found, so what they do is they delete it. So they delete that object. Okay, so I'm keeping this method simple. Of course, when there are chances that this is not this may not be there in the data store, and we'll have to throw off data not found exception. And then, but if one such record exists in the data store, only then we'll have to delete it. But still, we'll have to abort this method when when there is one record is not available. This method has to be aborted, okay, by throwing the exception. Okay, let's see. So now actually the Mockito has to intercept two calls. One is find by ID and other one is course repository dot delete. Let me get into that. So one thing first we'll have to do is that find by ID, that has to. So here actually let me pick up this. So find by ID. Okay, that's all. And then, okay, 1 minute, let me check what is the problem. Okay, so it should be get ID, and then okay, and then return, I think, yeah, optional dot, right? So now that method call is intercepted to return back a mock courses, and then we need to do an important thing. So if you check this IMPL is calling a delete method which is a void. The return type is void. So for a return type void, what we'll have to do, instruct Mockito, is to do nothing. Do nothing when, what is the repository name? Course repository, right? Dot, what is that? Delete this one. Delete of what? Gen mock courses, right? That's so now this is the way to call the do nothing. So we'll have to pass only the object and then the method to be called. Over here we'll completely call that method. Here we have passed only the repository object. Okay, And so once this is done, our next step is to call that service IMPL, right? So we have the course service inject mock, yeah, sorry, course service dot remove courses. So this is what courses of, again same, we need to ensure that we are using the same objects. Okay, done now. Okay, let me run this. Okay, something is wrong. Okay, let me check that. Console, yeah. Okay, it is not here. Let me check here. What is the problem? Okay, it is saying that there is a stubbing argument mismatch. So here we say delete as one object, and then here it is a different object we are passing. So the delete method of repository is getting an argument of course object. That object is different from the one which we are passing through service class. So this shouldn't happen. Okay, so but Mockito clearly points out what is the problem, and it fails yearly so that the problems can be fixed. Okay, so now I understood what is the problem. So I'm creating a different objects over here, so all that has to be avoided. So basically, rather than giving like this, I should give courses, and then courses mock is equal to gen mock courses. So I can reuse the same objects wherever required. Okay, so here if you see, I'm here using one, and here using one, and using a different objects here. All that will cause confusion. So the repository calls should be matching. So basically, when we call here the remove courses, we pass an object. So that object should be the same which we are passing here for find by ID, right? Or to make it simple, so to the service remove course method, we are passing one courses object that should match exactly with the course repository dot delete. Because if you come here, so we are calling remove courses. So this is a service class method, and with this courses we get the ID, and then create this course optional, and then we are using that course optional object to get the course object and then deleting that. So whatever we pass to this argument should be the same whatever we pass inside the repository calls, whatever here inside this method. So to make that possible, what I have done is I have made this course mock and use that in all places. Okay, now this time it should work. Yes. Okay, all done now. So the takeaway is whatever the argument we pass to the service method, this object should be matching with the objects that are passed within this method. So that is why what I have done is I have stored that in one object and then used that across every places. Okay, yeah. So done. This is the demonstration. So if you have any questions, please post me. I'll try to answer them. And please subscribe to the video when you like it, and Please give your thumbs up when you like this video. Thank you all.